Also wanted to say thank you to Brandon Gardner, our speaker here, who's going to talk a little bit about fractional product management. Not only is he giving us great insights, he also provided the food. So let's give him a nice round of applause. And also a big thank you to Kiln. They provided the space for free and have just been great to us. We did another event here a few months ago, and they've just been really, really great. So with that, I'll hand over to Kiln for a few minutes of messaging before we start the event. Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Coulter. I wanted to welcome you guys to Kiln today. How many of you is this your first time in the space? Okay, so wow, quite a lot of you. It's fun to be in a room with so many product managers. One of the cool things about Kiln is that we're creating a space where there's a community for a lot of interaction, collision, collaboration. And I'm sure your presenter today would be able to talk about it. Literally, as we were setting up, we had a guy come in and he's like, wow, what do you guys do? I'm looking for a product manager. And they had like a time to talk just before things were getting set up. And so those opportunities are really what we're trying to cultivate here at Kiln. We hope that you feel welcome. We've got our team, we've got myself, we've got Bella, anybody at the front desk. So if you have any questions that we'd like to coordinate more, reach out. But if you guys are in store for a great event today, welcome to Kiln.
You guys are both on. It's not yet. You're both on. Now I got it. You can hear me now. All right. So I'm Ben. I helped start Product Hive. I know Brandon pretty well. Want to kind of introduce you to Brandon a little bit here and kind of talk about fractional product management. So let's get started. Can you just give an intro of yourself, kind of your background, and we'll get what do you want to know?
What grew up in Colorado. What do I like to do? You want to kind of personal stuff? Okay. Brandon Gardner grew up in Colorado, moved out to Utah in 2015, so I've been here 8-9 years. So pretty amazing, incredible place to be. Have 3 kids and my wife, who's also here helping out. So thank you again. Let's see. Yeah, I would say the thing I love most is that gets me really going. I love going out on adventures in the woods with my family. So being in some slot canyon or being in the mountains with my family. That's great. I love it.
You moved out to Utah. We kept you. We convinced you to stay. That's good.
Yeah. Well, Product Hive.
Yeah, it's good. And so you've been in the product industry for quite a while. Kind of just how long?
Yeah. So 13, 15 years, I guess you could, name it. Been in product management. Started out in a consulting gig. Actually, right after I graduated from college, moved to Orlando for 5 years, where I worked with a consulting firm out there, working with Department of Defense and small startups. It was a great experience, just building product for some very large organizations and some very large companies. That's where I got started, and then after that 5 years in Orlando, then moved here to Utah.
Okay. And so for those that don't know this, so Brandon and I basically merged 2 different orgs together that then became Product Hive. And so we've been running Product Hive for, I don't know, 8
Since
years.
2015. I think we had our first conversation was at actually Cafe Zupa's. When we first broached the conversation. I think that's why I got it. Because at that Cafe Zupa's over there, we're like, maybe we should merge these 2 groups together. And we did. It's been great.
It's been good. So let's jump into fractional product management. So can you kind of give us just an idea of an overview of what, it's a buzzy term right now, I would say.
Yeah.
How would you define fractional product management?
Yeah, so it is, let me define also what it's not. It is not consulting. However, you do consult, and you're more of a contractor. So it's part-time. You're a part-time product manager for companies that need someone for 10, 20 hours a week, maybe up to 40 hours a week for a short period of time, maybe 3 to 6 months, possibly longer. And they need someone to come in to fill a specific gap. And, I can go into what that is and how it's been successful. But yeah, Fractional Product Management is a part-time product manager who comes in and works 3 to 6 months, part-time, possibly 10 to 20 hours a week, up to 40 hours a week, obviously, and does work for different companies. Yeah.
So you mentioned that it's not consulting. Can you go into like what you would, because there is traditional like product consultants out there that have been there for quite a long time. How would you define the differences between the two?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. So I was a consultant for 5 years. And how I define consulting is it's very much it's a paper pushing activity. And that might sound bad, but it really was, an activity where we would go and we'd do research and we would make recommendations and we would say, all right, well, this is what we recommend you to do. But at the end of the day, like I worked on these really large projects, like multi-million-dollar projects that then got put on a shelf. And it was really annoying. And so the reason Fractional Product Management is not consulting is because a Fractional Product Manager comes in and does work and works with, in Sembrar's case, works with a development team. They're getting work done. We're actually delivering product. So in that case, you're more of a contractor-esque type. Now, of course, you're consulting. You're making recommendations. You're doing that aspect of the job. But particularly in fractional, I really believe that it's you're not just consulting and telling people what they should do. You're actually doing the work and getting product done.
Okay. So like the consultant is really kind of telling other people how to do things better. And then, but fractional product management is like really embedding yourself into the problem space.
You're really
building onto the team.
Yeah, you're being a part of it. You are a team member, and you try to integrate yourself into that team as much as possible. Of course, you're, as a fractional PM, you are on the outside of that organization, but you are much more of a team member than, let's say, a consultant who's coming in from the outside, kind of looking in over, what are they doing? Is this good or not good? And so it's just different from that aspect where you are a team member getting work done.
Okay, cool. From my experience, I've had experience with consultants, and I won't name the consultant, but we hired a consultant to come into a company that I worked at, Experticity, and we paid them $50,000 to come in and basically tell our teams what to do over like a week. It seems like a lot of money to be told what to do, to then just walk away and then not really get much help out of it.
Yeah, that irks me.
And
yeah, what's the outcome? It's just like, what did we get at the end of the day from this? Whereas fractional, you better be delivering on outcomes. And of course, there's going to be output from them. But those output better lead to some type of outcome, and it's easy to quantify the ROI of that, which is, again, how I'm approaching fractional product management is critical. You have to have the return on investment, and it needs to be clear what that return on investment.
yeah, and I won't lie. On the flip side, the things that the consultant came in and kind of helped us with did change the way we worked over the long period of time, but it. How you do it and the practice of it and embedding yourself does make a big difference. So Sembrar is your company. I'd love to hear like the story of like what inspired you to like pursue fractional product management, because I know you started out with I'm going to then be the fractional PM. Kind of tell us the story of like kind of how that got going.
So I like to say it's an accident. Like I didn't actually jump in intending to do fractional product management. So the full story is that it was 2022. Gosh, it's amazing. It's not 2 years, but in 2022. So I was part of a RIF in 2022. But before that, like I had been. So by this point, I spent many years in product and built teams and grown teams and I love product, but I was kind of getting tired of it a little bit. Like it felt like it was becoming a little bit rote, and wanted to do something a little bit different. And I was actually talking to my manager at that time. And this was at a healthcare company I'm with called Redox Group. And I was talking with him and just telling him, hey, like, I think after this, like I want to go just do something different. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what different was at that point. Well, then lo and behold, it was part of a riff in September of 2022. And I came out of that not wanting to get back into tech. Like I was really done with the burst or the booms and busts of tech. Had been part of some booms, been part of some busts, and it was just a wild ride. And it was fun, had a great time doing it. But I was done. I wanted to really have more control and flexibility over what the next 10 years of my career looked like. And at that, actually in 2022, in 2012, I actually wrote out what my 10-year career vision looked like. And it was up in 2022. And so it was actually really good timing to get let go from this company and recreate what the next 10 years was going to look like. And so at that point, like I think I applied to maybe a few companies. I think that everyone does. You update your resume, and you're like, all right, well, go find another job. But at that point, I was like, all right, I'm going to do something different. And so I wrote my next 10-year plan of what I wanted it to be, and it had nothing actually to do with the companies I wanted to work for. I'm going to get some water real quick.
Please do. One thing I think we're seeing in the industry right now over the past few years is quite the roller coaster, I would say. In a lot of companies, there's a lot of risks that are going on. There's a lot of investment challenges. There's a lot of different ways that companies are trying to approach building software the most effectively and profitable as possible. And I think it's a lot of people are going through that type of experience that you've been talking about.
Right. I'm going to try not to lose my voice here. So actually I'm going to try to keep this shorter. What I tried to do at that point is I actually looked at buying a company. I looked at buying like a home services company, an HVAC company. I was going to go a completely different direction. And I hired a coach to help me in this process of buying a company. Sorry, it sounds like I'm choking up because I am. I'm not crying. But then I stumbled upon what this fractional was. So I actually had people coming to me, they were actually startups who were coming to me, just friends that I knew, saying, hey, well, you come work for us for just 10 to 20 hours a week. And I was like, well, yeah, this would be great. Like, while I'm buying this company, I can go and I can do some work and provide, and this will extend the runway. Well, so Sembrar really started out as that. Like, I started an LLC, and I just happened to call it Sembrar. And I was going to go out and buy my home services business. I was serious. Like, I was getting I was getting out of tech. But then as I eventually had 4 different clients I was working with, I realized this is solving a real problem. I was nervous though, because product management had always been a 60-hour-a-week job. Like, that is the prevailing thought. Well, I started to do my own research. Like, I had these 4 companies that I want to say were fairly successful, and I was just doing 10 to 20 hours a week with them. And I realized, well, maybe this could work. Like, maybe this fractional thing, wasn't even calling it fractional at that point. Maybe this fractional thing will work. But again, I actually didn't want to be the product manager anymore. I wanted to start my own company and build out our own company. But I knew there were others, because I talked to others. There's Jen. Hey, Jen. She's one of my partner PMs. Fantastic. I was talking to a lot of others who wanted to be fractional PMs, who didn't want to do a lot of the business development work, didn't want to do the contracting. There's a lot that goes into building up business and building that business. But that's what I wanted to do. But I knew I had a niche and competency. And so anyways, I know this is a long story, but that's how I got into it. really not intending to do fractional product management, but seeing that there was a need for product leaders and for founders who needed someone for this part-time for a lot of budgetary reasons.
Yeah, so let's go into that a little bit. I mean, you've now gone from being the fractional PM to growing your business up. You've got how many PM?
Yeah, so
Fractional PMs
so work
working.
with 7 different, I call them my partner PMs, partner product managers. I have four active right now. We're working on different projects with different clients, from nonprofits to international companies to, yeah.
So as you think about product teams in these companies
that
are then looking for fractional PMs, what are businesses getting out of this, and what parts of their products are they looking to fill with fractional PMs versus a dedicated PM?
Yeah, this is the critical part, because fractional product management is a tool, and not all tools work for every situation. What I have to be clear with people is you need full-time product managers. Well, okay, full-time product. This is not to replace full-time PMs. Fractional product. In many cases, you do need full-time PMs. Where fractional product management works in these different companies is when they have very specific, I'll call them boxed projects, and call them projects or products that they have to work on. I'll use it, for example, one client, we were working on an SSO for them. So it's a single sign-on. The outcome that they're trying to achieve is a 50% reduction in the onboarding process for that SSO. And it's really complicated. This company is probably a $50 million company. They, like everyone, it's very tight budgets. They couldn't hire someone, but they could bring on a contractor for 10 to 20 hours a week. And that's all we are doing. Is our outcome is reduction in this onboarding time by 50%. And we've achieved it. And actually, we extended our contract for another 3 to 6 months. So that is an example where it's very boxed in, it's very specific. We work with a development team, and it's very focused. What we don't do is that we're not necessarily there to become, we're SMEs in a sense that we know the SSO and that experience and such, but we don't go to all the extra meetings that happen at a company. Am I answering your question still?
Yes, you are answering my question still. No, it's very interesting to hear how a fractional PM can get slotted in. Because if you look at like the broader PM industry, you brought up the fact that like fractional product managers are not there to replace existing PMs. You've got companies that are having a hard time finding additional funding, that are trying to get to profitability as quickly as possible, being creative with their budgets. So how do you see this in the industry kind of changing, or are you seeing an increase in companies looking for this type of service?
Yeah, I would call it yes, and I would call it more efficiency in how they use their budgets. Just because I lived through this roller coaster of tech. The past 15 years has just been a really boom in tech. Lots and lots of money moving into tech, and lots of investment moving into tech. And so the prevailing thought has been, you raise your seed round 3 to 5 million, and you go out and you hire your development teams. You start building a product. I think that works. But is it the most efficient way to spend the money? So to answer your question, what I find is that, for example, the SSO, what I was just referring to, they were coming to us because they needed to be more efficient with their budget and how they were using it. And so bringing on someone part-time was an efficient way to use the budget. Also, you don't have to fire someone at the end of this road. You only need them for 6 months. Well, you only need them for a temporary amount of time. They can still come in and do a great job and get the work done, get the project done, and then they're out, they're gone. And so it's not meant to be a long-term relationship. It's really meant to be a short-term relationship.
All right, so I think I'm seeing this on the, not only on the product side, but on the design side as well. You're
I think
seeing-
this existed in design way before it existed in product.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, design studios existed, contracted, support came in as needed. So I think this is definitely a valuable service that can be provided. I'm gonna make like a really big assumption, and I think that I'm pretty confident in this assumption, but assuming that there are people in this audience that don't have a job that are interested in going into some sort of fractional product management role, or have a job and want to try it out on the side. In your opinion, what advice would you give them to get into fractional product management, and kind of like what makes a good, this is a two-sided question, but how could they get started, and what makes a good fractional PM?
Yeah. So I'm going to reference actually a LinkedIn Live event I did with Jen, who was one of our product partners. I think she actually does a better job than I will do explaining it here. So I'm going to reference that LinkedIn Live event and go back and watch that, or can share it out or whatever. But I would say it needs to be intentional. If you're looking to just, if you don't have a job right now and you're just looking to try to get into this, but you don't really want to be fractional, you'd rather have a full-time job, fractional is probably not the best route for you. You need to if you want to go into fractional, it needs to be intentional, and it's going to take time to build and grow your clientele and to grow that book of business. It doesn't happen overnight. Also, I would say fractional product management is still not very well understood. I still hear and see many people going, well, PMing is a 60-hour-a-week job. How could someone do a good job at 10 to 20 hours a week? Well, I have 11 clients that I can show you great proof and evidence of that we can do a great job. So it's still growing. There are a lot more people that are interested in being fractional PMs than there's actually demand. So be aware that if this is a route that you want to go down, start preparing now and start building it now, because it's not an immediate, I would say, supplement for all of your income. Now, I think it can grow and you can have a great income that can go way past possibly what you're earning today, and more control and flexibility, but that doesn't happen overnight. So my advice to those that are interested in getting into it is be intentional, start building your network now, start building your potential book of clients now, and be patient. Because just like any business, it doesn't grow, it grows with time, and it grows with persistency and effort. So I think that's the advice I'd give.
Awesome. Can we go more into sharing some more examples of projects that have been successful fractional projects?
Yeah, so another great one, and I can talk more openly about this one, Zox is the name of the company. Mark Gilbert, who is there out of Silicon Valley, really cool little product that they have out there, working with financial planners, using AI to essentially, Mark's probably gonna be like, oh gosh, Brandon, you described it so terribly. But essentially taking the conversation from a financial planner and bringing all that information and filling out forms. I guess financial planners have to take lots of forms. Anyways, Mark, I met Mark April of last year. He was actually looking to hire a PM, but he only had budget for a fairly junior product manager. And he decided to go with someone more senior, fractionally. And so the PM, Jim, who has a lot of 20 plus years in product, he essentially worked for them fractionally. And the outcome that they were aiming for is Mark was looking to bring on someone to help them with their early adopter program. Essentially finding those early adopters, not only finding the early adopters, but working with the early adopters, getting them on the product, on the tool, understanding what was working, what was not working, and then feeding that information back to the developers and iterating on the product. And so this is what Jim did for 15 hours a week. it became extremely successful. They were supposed to do like 50 or so early adopters. They ended up doing 100 plus early adopters. Zox ended up actually hiring Jen full time because it went so well. And so this was another example of a company, a very small startup, founder startup, who went and helped them out. Another company we're actually working with right now, they are looking to break into the United States with one of their products. And so we're helping them from a chief product officer standpoint. So it's not only a product manager, but we also do chief product officers. So they're helping them with how to set up the team, how to set up positioning, how to get the product into the US. Another is another small startup.
Before you do
Yeah, go ahead.
another, the first one that you mentioned, you said this company was looking for an associate or a junior PM and went with a senior experienced fractional PM. I'm going to make the assumption that a lot of your fractional PMs are very experienced people looking to take that years of experience and provide more value in a shorter amount of time. Does that pose a threat? That I perceive that might pose some sort of threat to entry-level PMs trying to get into roles right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've thought a lot about this. I have intentionally, it's been very intentional to only bring on senior PMs to work on these projects. One, because there's not a ramp time. Intrinsically, they just know what to do. And so things just they go a lot smoother. But on the other token, it's just like, well, how do you get your start? Like, where do you get your start if you're just jumping into product management? I don't know a great answer to that for fractional, at least at this point. If there's like programs or like internships of some sort that we could do. I'm not focusing on it right now, but I do think it needs to be resolved. I think if you're getting into product, I'd definitely look for that company that is going to take on, an associate or a mid-level product manager and go get just all the experience you can. And I think that's the best place to gain that experience before you jump into going out on your own and taking on more of a fractional type role. So again, I would love to figure out how to bring on more associate level product managers, but just not there yet, or haven't figured out how to make that successful with the type of companies we're working with.
Awesome. I would love to continue to hear more examples. In a general sense, there are types of projects or parts of applications that may be more bigger bets of like higher risk of value, and then there may be parts of applications that are the mother goose or whatever analogy you want to use for it that just need maintenance and improvement and constant feedback that have a lot of high use. What parts of applications and businesses are you seeing them willing to take on a fractional PM are they the bigger bets? Are they the smaller maintenance? Are they anything in between?
Yeah, that is a great question. So it depends on the size of the company and where they're at. The previous example some of the previous examples that I gave, we were working on the primary product with the founder. We're working very closely with the founder. And just they needed that extra level of expertise to help get it across the finish line. So in that case, we were working on the main product, but we were working very closely with the founder. So the founder had all of the handprints all over the product. We just needed to help the founder alleviate some of their time. So on that case, yes, we were working on the primary product. And that's why they wanted to bring on a senior individual to help. With bigger companies, we're not working on, I would say, that's what I'd say, you need someone full-time. You need that person full-time to work on that primary product. You need them there. They say 60 hours a week. I think that could be ridiculous. But, they need them there very dedicated to the product on a full-time basis. Now, then there's these side things like you were talking about. There is the SSO that's not core to the product. That's more maintenance level. In that case, bring on someone fractional to help with some of these smaller items that you need work on. Another project we worked on was they were making a big bet. They didn't want to hire someone until they had some more proof, evidence that it was going to work out. And so they brought us on. They brought on a PM to just work 20 hours a week and figure out if this is, prove out some hypotheses before they went full in. That's what they did for 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about that kind of earlier, that I'm seeing some VC studios or venture studios that are getting a little bit more creative with their investments into their startups, with not only just investing capital, but also investing resources alongside of it, that they can move from startup to startup depending on the viability of the business that's getting built, or the new feature of an existing business. And I'm seeing that happening in multiple areas of the industry.
Yeah. And a senior PM, so the Product Alliance just came out with this report. A senior PM with salary bonus, this is not including them fully in, but just of that is like $206,000. So they're really expensive. Now again, fully loaded, it's probably over 250. So senior PMs are not cheap. Now they do a great work, they do a great job. So it can be very difficult for particularly founders seed stage to swallow that pill, to try to bring on someone of that caliber.
Well, that goes into like some of the financials of like fractional product management. So what are your typical like pricing models for fractional product manager?
Yeah, so I mean, if you were to bring on a full-time fractional product manager, it's going to be more expensive than if you just hired someone, because, well, that's the value, is that they're part-time, they're fractional, they come in today and can be done tomorrow. So there's value exchange for that ability to have that flexibility. The way we have priced it is, what we tend to like to do is month to month. I don't necessarily believe in hourly. However, we have done hourly. I've had one job that's done hourly. We prefer to do more of a retainer model. So if someone's coming in for roughly 10 hours, 25% resource time, then we'll charge this. If someone's coming in at 50% resource time, then we'll charge, another amount. But again, PMing it's dynamic. It's dynamic. Some weeks, it might be 18 hours, and some weeks it might be 22 hours. So instead of counting hours, which has been more of the traditional model, it's like, hey, what can we come in and do, and can we aim at the outcomes? What I like about it is that it puts the mentality that we're aiming at outcomes. We're not aiming at, well, how many hours do I put into this? Now, yes, we need to be, we do make sure that we stick within that hourly time frame, but we don't want to be strict and saying, all right, like, well, I worked another hour, let me put another, mark down this first hour. So again, I think I personally believe the best model is more of a retaining model. However, that's not to say that we haven't looked hourly, because we have if the client demanded.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, can you get into more like the specifics of like what is your expected level of involvement based on a different budget levels? Like how integrated you are with the team. You talk about 25% or 25 hours. Do you break it into like a certain time of day, certain meetings that they're involved in?
Yeah.
Like, can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So one of the things to assure that fractional works well is not to have a ton of meetings. It's just really important. And at the same time, that's why they really like fractional. It's because you're not in all of the, I'll call them fluff meetings that a lot of organizations have. It's not that these I call them fluff. It's not that they're not important. They really are. They're extremely important for culture building and such. But when you need someone to just get some work done, all they're there for is those most mandatory, necessary meetings to work and to get work done. So in those cases, if someone is 10 hours a week, typically it's on a maintenance mode type product They're working with a dev team, maybe 1 or 2 developers, and they're just helping to push this product along. I say that, however, and we have had a project where we actually in 10 hours a week, we revamped the whole onboarding flow and increased conversion rate 7%. So, you know, it can depend, but if you're at 10 hours a week, you're working less with it. Your team, the development team, is working very independently. You're just giving them guidance and direction, and they're going and getting the work done. They don't need you to write stories. They're just playing away or pounding away, and you just said, this is the work that you need to do. At 20 hours, you possibly have more work. This would be like a new product that you're working on, new concepts, new ideas, as really that 20-hour and above type work.
Yeah, I mean, going back to like some of your original comment of like, I just want to get out of tech. Some of those aspects of just communication, over communication, really just tend to be meetings or lots of documentation that definitely gets kind of tiring.
Gets very tiring.
Let's be honest here. So how do you, I mean, I'm sure there's like a really fine balance of like, how do you effectively like integrate into existing teams and build rapport with stakeholders while also just getting stuff done, you know?
Yeah, this has actually been, I wouldn't say it's the biggest challenge, but it is one of the things we have to focus a lot on in the Semper service is how can they get integrated with these teams? I was just on with one of my clients just last week, and we talked about this very specifically, is if the PM, the fractional PM, doesn't understand what, you know, the 8 other development teams are working on, well, is that a potentially a waste of time, or if communication layers break down? And so again, I wouldn't say it's the biggest concern, but it is something that if you hire a fractional PM, you have to be aware that you, as the person hiring that fractional PM, need to be attuned to what all the other teams are doing, so you can give that fractional PM some direction, saying, oh, they're working on that over there, go and talk to them. So the communication, I would say, can be some of the hardest aspects, because that fractional PM, if they're only working 20 hours, 10 hours a week, doesn't know what all those other 8 teams are necessarily. And that actually, I would say, is to look for is if that PM, if you think that fractional PM is going to have to work with those 8 other teams, maybe not the right scenario for a fractional. Again, fractional PM works with very cut out, this is what they're working on. They don't have to interface with a lot of other people or a lot of other parts of the company.
Yeah, I mean, it goes into that analogy of the forest and the trees. The fractional PMs are really pretty much focused on the trees, but how much time do they really need to spend understanding the forest to make a decision on whether I should cut that?
That's a great analogy. Yeah, I think you hit it right on. They're not. It's a different job if you're focused on the forest than focused on the trees.
Yeah. A few more questions here, and then I'm going to open it up to you all. So start preparing your questions mentally. At the moment. Okay. Yeah. Just a couple like really interesting logistical questions that I have for you is like, are all of your partner PMs, fractional PMs working remotely for these companies?
Yeah.
Or do they do on-site time with them?
It's all remote. Yeah, it's all remote. We do have a few that have traveled, but that is the exception. Typically, it's fully remote.
Okay. And then just kind of how do you handle conflicting, like every PM deals with prioritization, right? Of like things that they have ownership of, but how do you handle conflicting priorities or unexpected challenges during an engagement for the fractional PM? That could be from a business perspective of like, hey, this is what we agreed upon. Is it very well scoped, or is it broadly scoped of like what you want to accomplish? How do you handle challenges? And then how does the PM particularly handle potentially conflicting?
So are you asking like the company has priorities, right? Or other PMs have priorities, and does that ever conflict with the fractional PM's priorities?
Yeah.
Okay. The beauty of fractional PMing is they're paying a good penny for someone to come in and focus on something. And so they are pretty confident that they want that person to focus on those few things. So I actually find it actually more beneficial because they're bringing this person in for a finite amount of time, understood amount of time to work on one thing. Now, that can come in conflict and has come in conflict with, I am the fractional PM, is working on something, working on a very particular project, and they're trying to get, Team X over here to come in and provide some type of, development, or whatever it might be, is provide them some support. Well, that fractional PM doesn't know the priorities of the company, and so there has to be a mediator, and that mediator is usually the person who hired the fractional PM to come in and do the work. And they have to work that out. The fractional PM does have their clear tasks, but yes, if you're hiring a fractional PM, you need to be aware of what their tasks are, what their focuses are, and how that also will impact other team players on your team.
Yeah, do you ever, like what I've seen on the design side around contract hires is they often, not often, but sometimes they get asked to be very much a floater of sorts of like, where are we needing support for the full-time people, and come in, focus on this tree for this amount of time till it's done, and then focus on this tree. Are you seeing that on the PM side
That's
as well,
exactly,
around
yeah.
getting kind of floated around, or does it seem pretty straightforward and focused?
Well, it's focused in the sense that it's focused in the sense that they came in because they have a very particular product they want worked on, and we'll do that for 6 months, and then we're done. And if they want to rehire us, well, they can do that. I'd say it's different though than like an internal consulting. Like I know some companies have that, where they'll kind of float people around between project and project. It is slightly different in that they're hiring us for a very particular area for finding time.
Okay, cool. And then last question before I open it up to everybody. How do you handle like logistics around access to resources and communication channels? Is there a fair amount of onboarding that gets them into like the things that they need? Because with every new full-time hire, you kind of have a period of time where you're just like ramping somebody up. And with fractional product management, I'm sure you've got some sort of playbook for fractional onboarding, kind of.
Yes, so every client's different. This is the hard part about scaling more of a services business. But what we do generally with every single client is I have a whole set of questions, like what are the tools they need access to? Do they, what is their email? Who's getting their email set up? What are the teams? Who do they need to talk to? It's like essentially putting together what does their first week look like. And then they go and the PM goes and start executing on that onboarding. So we try to ramp them really fast, really fast. Like within 1 to 2 weeks, they've met all the people they're going to work with. They know the product they're working on, and they've received all the documentation. So in the first, we call it our kickoff meeting, they have that document, and they've already started to fill out and give them access to all these different areas. And that is critical for a fractional PM to be successful, is that the stakeholder is committed to helping them quickly onboard and getting all that needed information. Otherwise, it can take it's not like a W-2 where it's taken me 2 weeks to get my my email or my computer set up. It's like no. We need it set up day one at their site.
All right. So
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, now it's your opportunity to ask questions.
So you are ideally a senior PM, but you're making less because the less amount of time. In order to make that profitable, is it common for a fractional PM to maybe work at this company Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and this other company Tuesday, Thursday?
Yeah, so you can actually earn more. You can actually earn more if you're working full time as a fractional PM. You'll earn more, and so that's what typically is the ideal state, is getting to that point where you can have multiple clients working at the same time, or you have a full time client that you might be working with for 4 to 6 months. And so yeah, that is really the ideal. I would not recommend working more than 3. I mean, I think 3 is the absolute max. I think ideally 2 clients you'd be working with at the same time.
Do you have questions?
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback because it was about, how your partner PMs manage your scheduling is, what happens if there's like clients that there's collisions and they both want you in a meeting at 1 o'clock, or is it like division of days or division of time during the day, or is it pretty flexible?
Yeah, so this is the challenge that the fractional PM has to be really aware of, is their schedule, and setting those boundaries up front. Is saying, hey, these are the hours that I'm fully available, and then working that time frame. So, for example, I have one partner PM that they've told the client they're available from 8 to 10, and then after that, like, they will take meetings. They're flexible. Like, they will jump on meetings, they'll jump on things, but that is their time frame that they are fully available to do work, and that's something that we really help to teach our partner PMs is to maintain that balance. I saw one comment actually at this event saying, PMing is still again, I've seen this so many times, it's a 60-hour-a-week job. The great thing about fractional is that you really do, as long as you're strong, like you say, hey, this is where we're working. Like, you get, essentially 18 to 22 hours of my time every week. I can be flexible, but you really stick to that. You're not a W-2 where you only get paid for the time that you're working. So anyways, I think that's one of the benefits of being fractional.
How do you go about expectations management, especially with companies that might not have a good understanding of what product management is and isn't? So, for example, if I'm an early stage startup founder and I figure out products, I'm trying to focus on sales, bringing in a product manager, hey, own the roadmap and manage the developers, and also can you design too? Also, the marketers need some help, right? That's one example with expectations management. If they're saying, hey, I want your guy to triple revenue in 3 months, that's realistic, right? Whereas they're the customer, you're the provider. How do you manage some of those expectations?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. That's where we're very specific and saying, what do you need us to come in and do? Because we're not going to do all of that. For example, the example that I was giving, we came in to help our client with new customer with essentially their beta program. That's all we were doing. So we're working on your beta program, and it's very clear cut what we're working on and what we're not working on. Now, they could change that in the sense of the engagement and say, I want you to work on something else. But it is very clear expectations that when we came in, we were supposed to be working on X, Y, and Z, not on ABC. And actually this has been, I think, one of the big successes over the 11 clients we've worked with, is it's really set clear expectations with them of what we're doing and what we're not doing. What I have started to implement, Senbar, is that we actually do a 3-week check-in with our client, and then we do a 2 to 3 month check-in with them. And we go over what we were intended to come in and do. Are we still focused on that? Do we need to change? So they can pivot. We understand the product, we need to pivot. But you're right, you have to set very clear expectations as a fractional PM that this is what I'm coming in to do. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to get the value that they want, and I don't think you're going to be able to give them the value that they're paying you for, because it's just not clear enough for the short amount of time that you're there.
Any other questions?
Given that this is a pretty nascent space, like, what advice, as a person looking to get into fractional product management, like, what advice do you have for prospecting and pitching each projects? Like you said, it came up, you had a lot of inbounds is how you started. But
Yeah. Yeah, I would say just start getting to know other founders, start coming to like Utah Tech Week next week, start building your network, start getting to know people. And I think that's going to be critical. Business development is the hardest thing. And I think sometimes as product people, we don't want to do that per se, or that's uncomfortable. That's like why Semrush exists, is because we do that business development. But yeah, you need to start now. Like you need to start getting to know a lot of these people in this network, and then you might get one job, and then you may say, oh, we'll see if I can get the second one, and then the third one. Just because that business development is the hardest aspect of it. So go to all the events, get to know the founders, get to know VCs, get to know, do your LinkedIn posts, let people know what you're doing. Just get yourself out there, get your brand out there, and that's what lets people know that you're available and open to work.
Have literally post every day. You get checks.
It's the hardest part of my life.
Here's a couple questions from the online attendees. The first one, question about Semrush. Is it a recruiting type firm where clients hire Semrush to find fractional PMs to do work for them, and then these PMs are contract employees for the client? Or are these fractional PM employees of Semrush, or employees of Semrush, and are they loaned out to clients temporarily? So are they commission-based or salaried employees?
Yeah, for right now, they're not salaried employees. They are people, so Semrush, again, works with, we only work with people that we're excited about working with and now can do a great job. Semrush doesn't, it's not like a loaning out, well, I wouldn't necessarily term it as like a recruiting. We don't do recruiting per se. Semrush works very closely with a partner PM, make sure all these expectations are set, make sure that the training is set, making sure we're following up with the client, what needs to be done there. So that's a lot of work that Semrush does, but then we work with a partner PM to make it successful. But to answer your question more directly, they are right now all contractors. Maybe one day I'll start hiring people. But what I find is a lot of these partner PMs, they don't want to be W-2'd. They want to be on their own. They want to have that freedom and flexibility. And I'm here for that. I want to help them do that.
So your partner PMs are 1099.
They're 1099, correct.
All right, here's the second question. I'm a senior PM with 20 plus years. If I want to do fractional product management, should I start my own LLC or find a placement firm that's willing to place fractional PMs like Semrush?
I am not your lawyer, nor am I your accountant. I would always recommend starting an LLC of some sort. Again, go talk to your accountant on all the benefits of why that might be good from a financial standpoint and also from a legal standpoint. So that's what I did. Let me say that. That's what I did. And you might consider the same.
I think just to clarify, I think the question was, should they start their own business and try to find or go to a firm like yours who has those?
Okay, yeah. So yes, please come and talk to me, and I'll throw out my information. I'm willing to talk with lots of people. I would say do both. Do both is probably your best path forward right now. Again, like I said earlier, fractional PM is not fairly well understood or accepted highly, or not accepted, it's just not well understood. It's never been an option, at least from a large industry standpoint. So getting out there with your own name and also working with someone like Semrush I'd say both is a good direction.
You mentioned that in a prior engagement or project that one of the partner PMs ended up working for the firm that you guys had a contract with. Does that affect your business model at all? Or since instances like that, are you preventing your employees to be able to sign with the companies that they work for?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it was very intentional that to allow the contract to hire, essentially. This has actually happened twice. So not only the one example I gave, but also another where they ended up hiring the PM, the partner PM. I had instances in other companies I worked with where we couldn't hire the contractors that came in and worked for us. We really liked them. We wanted them to be team members, but they were all locked up. I didn't want to create a business where if the business wanted them to be on full time, the partner and the contractor wanted to be with them. Like, why would I stop that? It's probably not. I just didn't want to stop that from happening. Like, if that's what they want, then by all means, go for it. Why would I stand in the way of that? Now, the simpler model is I do take a recruiting or finder's fee for that, for my business model, because yes, there is some value lost in that and some value gained for both sides. So I've just set it up in a way that yeah, it can be a contract to hire of a type model. And I don't want to stand in the way of a business and an employee who want to work together.
Any other questions? Do we have anything on Zoom? Any questions?
All right. Okay, just two things. Utah Tech Week's next week. There are several events that are happening. I am sponsoring, Semper is sponsoring one event. We're going to talk about finding product market fit with these great individuals. You can sign up there if you want. Just go check on Utah Tech Week. Here's another great event from some members of our Product Hive community. I will be on a panel there, but anyways, this is about when and how to hire product managers. These are great ways to get to know people. You talked about finding others or finding ways to become a fractional PM. These are great events to come to get to know others and just start networking. So I encourage you to come to these type of events.
So we also have another Product Hive event happening next Thursday as part of Product Tech Week. It's about product strategy research, how to do research for product strategy and how to frame it. So we do have that coming up. It'll get posted on our meetup as well.
Yeah, lots of events next week. Don't plan on working a lot. Just come to all these events. If you want to set up time to chat, please do so. My calendar is open to you. There it is on the left side. Connect with me on LinkedIn. There it is as well. So feel free to set up time. I'm happy to talk with you about any questions, any specific questions that you have. I love educating and I love telling people more about how this can work for you or how it can work for your company. So please set up time. Thank you for being here.